Hey everyone. So I have an announcement to make today. I have started a Patreon, so anybody interested in watching the video versions of the episodes, I will put the link in the show notes so you can check it out. So we're going to get into today's episode. I am going to be talking about the tragic case of 13-year-old Kelly Ann Tineys. Now, Kelly was born on March 5th of 1975 in Valley Stream, New York. Her father, Richard, owned an auto repair shop, and her mother, Victoria, was a medical assistant in a local doctor's office. They had Kelly and Richie, who were about 5 years apart. The family lived with Richard's parents at the time on Horton Road in Valley Stream. This case began on the afternoon of March 3rd of 1989 when Kelly, who was just 13, was babysitting her little brother Richie, who was 8 at the time. The phone rang and Richie went to answer it. He spoke to a man on the other end who said his name was John and he wanted to speak to Kelly. So he gave Kelly the phone, and she spoke to him briefly before hanging up, and then she told Richie that she had to go to a friend's house really quick down the street, but she would be right back. This was at 3 p.m. when she left, but Kelly never came back. Now, what you need to understand is that Kelly was very reliable and responsible, so it was strange that she would leave her brother at all, especially when she knew she was supposed to be watching him. She had never done anything like that before. Now, 5 minutes after she left Richie, who was starting to get a little bit worried, he went to go look for her. He stopped by Nicole's house, which is the friend that Kelly told him she was going to see. So, when he got there, she told him that she hadn't seen Kelly. Richie continued looking through the neighborhood, and he ran into another boy named Harry and asked him if he maybe saw his sister. Harry said he had seen Kelly. He said he saw her go into the Gullib family house, who were his neighbors. The boys went to the door, they rang the bell, but no one answered. Not knowing what else to do, they just went home. Now, this was very unlike Kelly, but Richie figured she'd be back soon enough. Once he got home, he called his dad to let him know that Kelly had left him alone, saying she was going to a friend's house, but he had found out that she was actually at the Gullib's house. He told his dad that he had knocked on the door, but nobody answered. His dad then told him to go back to the Gullib house and bang on the door and demand Kelly to come out. So after hanging up, Richie tried calling the Gullib's house for about several times before giving up and just walking back down to the house. He started banging on the front door and calling Kelly's name. He said he couldn't hear anybody inside because there was music, and he assumed the music was preventing them from hearing him banging on the door. Not sure what to do now, he started pacing around the driveway, and he started making up stories, something that he would think that Kelly would come out and help him. So he told her the dog got out, and he needed help getting him back in the house. But this didn't work either. So Richie went back home, and he just waited for his mom. Victoria got home a little after 5 and was super surprised that Kelly still wasn't back. Nobody was too concerned yet, but it was very strange behavior. It was very out of character for Kelly to do something like this. Victoria started calling Kelly's friends, assuming she was with one of them, but none of them had seen her since they left school that day. When Richard got home, he started helping his wife call people to see if anybody had seen Kelly or heard from her. And at this point, they were starting to get a bit worried. They started going door to door in the neighborhood, asking everyone if they had seen her. When they got to Sharon's house, who was another schoolmate of Kelly's, she told them that she saw Kelly go into the Gullib's house. They called the Gullibs and they knocked on the door, but they got nothing until after 6 p.m. when Elizabeth, the mother, finally answered the phone. She told Richard that she had been gone all afternoon running errands, but as far as she knew, Kelly hadn't been to the house. Richard was getting frustrated at this point because the only information anybody would give them was that Kelly had gone into the Gullib's home, but now they're being told that she was never there, so where was she? Not knowing what was going on, Richard asked if he could speak to Elizabeth's youngest son, John, who was 14. Now remember, before Kelly left, she received a call from somebody saying their name was John. John J. was John Jay told Richard he actually hadn't seen Kelly in a few days. Richard said that the boy kind of sounded nervous, like he wasn't telling the truth, but he didn't want to push him. Instead, he got off the phone and the family went back to looking for Kelly and talking to her friends, hoping she was just hiding out somewhere, afraid that she was going to be in trouble because she had left her brother alone. Now we're going to go over a little bit of who the Golub family was. Now, the Golub family had lived there for about 20 years at this point, and they were friendly with the neighbors. They would say the usual hellos if they saw anybody, but they hadn't really made friends in the neighborhood. They had 3 children. Their oldest had already moved out, but they still had 20-year-old Robert and 14-year-old John Jay living at home. Now, learning that people had seen Kelly go into the Golub house, it was weird because as far as anyone knew, Kelly and John Jay weren't friends, and there wouldn't really be a reason for her to even be at their house. Robert, the oldest brother, would later say that he actually thought Kelly and John Jay liked each other because of the looks that they would give each other when they were outside together. But Kelly's friends said that they didn't talk, and as far as they knew, she didn't like him or have a crush on him. Since the Golubs weren't very close with their neighbors, so looking at their home from the outside, you would think that they kept a very clean and nice home. However, the inside of the home was another story. It was actually a hoarder's home, and we find this out very shortly. Now, Kelly's parents, they were getting really concerned since they still didn't know where she was. The next morning, they continued looking for her, and they even went back to the Golub's home, where Elizabeth invited them inside. Richard and Victoria were shocked when they saw the mess of the home. Every room, every corner was piled high with stuff. Ignoring all of this, Richard got straight to the point and explained again that several people had seen Kelly go into the house, but nobody had seen her leave. Elizabeth repeated that she was running errands all day the day before, but she went and woke up John Jay, who came out and talked to them and said he hadn't seen her in a few days. Richard and Victoria decided to just go back home, and they called the police to report Kelly as missing. Thomas McVetti of the Juvenile Aid Bureau of the Nassau County Police Department was the first to come across the case. He called Kelly's parents to ask if they had talked to all of her friends, had looked in all of her usual hangout spots, and they told him, yes, we did everything we could think of. So he made his way to their home where he could have a sit down and go from there. When he got there, they told him that When he got there, they explained that several of their neighbors had seen Kelly go into the Golub home at about 3:15 the day before, but everybody in the Golub home is claiming that they haven't seen Kelly. They then explained as far as they knew, Kelly didn't have any relationships with anyone in the house, so they didn't even know why she would be there in the first place. McVetti and his partner then made their way over to the Golub house and actually ran into Elizabeth and John Jay in the driveway, who invited them inside. The detective sat down with them and explained why they were there. John Jay told them, as he had told Richard, that he hadn't seen Kelly in a few days and that she didn't come over to their house, nor could he think of a reason of why she would want to. McVetti then asked if anybody else was home, to which John Jay said his brother was and he went to go get him. Robert told them that he knew who Kelly was, but hadn't seen her in a while. He said he was home the day before playing video games with his brother and his brother's friends, and after they were all done, John Jay and his friends left to play basketball while Robert just stayed home and hung out. McVetti found it kind of strange that every time Robert would answer a question, he would look over to John Jay like he was trying to confirm what he was saying was accurate. So McVetti straight asked him, "Why do you keep looking at your brother?" At this point, detectives decided to separate the brothers and go talk to the neighbor Sharon, who said that she had seen Kelly go into the Golub house. She also told them that Harry had told her that John Jay was the one who answered the door when Kelly arrived. Now, this made detectives believe that they weren't getting the whole story from the family. So they decided to call for backup, and McVetti explained to his supervisor what was going on and that he wanted to search the Golub home. Now, normally, if you want to search somebody's home, you get a search warrant, but Elizabeth, wanting to be as helpful as possible, consented to the search. So they called for backup, to search the home. As they were making their way through the house, they finally made it to the basement, where McBetty saw a small door that had a steam trunk in front of it. They moved it, and when they opened the door, he could see a green sleeping bag that was leaned up against the wall. When he got a little bit closer, he could see that sticking out of the bottom of the bag was a small bloody leg. He immediately secured the scene and called for homicide detectives. News spread fast in this neighborhood that they had found something in the home, so all of the neighbors were outside in their yards, including Robert and Victoria. McVetti saw them and he went straight for them, wanting to be the one to give them the news before they could hear it from anybody else. Victoria broke down and just started screaming. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. When they questioned John Jay again, he said that the day before he got home, and he had 2 friends with him. They played some video games for a while before hanging out with Robert. He said Robert then went upstairs to his room, so the boys decided to go outside and play basketball. He said that he got back home around 5 p.m. The crime scene techs went through the basement, which, due to the amount of stuff, it did take them a bit, but they were able to clear a spot to pull out the sleeping bag and lay her on the basement floor, while they waited for the medical examiner to arrive. They said inside the crawl space, they also found curtains that were soaked with blood, along with a bayonet. The medical examiner, Dr. Thanning, arrived and was shocked by what she saw. Being such a small town, she didn't have to deal with anything like this. All of the people who she normally dealt with had passed away from natural causes. Now I'm going to go into some details about what happened to Kelly. Kelly's face had been beaten and bruised. Her neck had been cut so deep that she had nearly been decapitated, and clumps of her hair were pulled out. Her entire body was bruised and cut, along with 2 human bite marks on her butt. She had been cut from her sternum to her groin, exposing her internal organs. Now, detective says based on these wounds, whoever did this had to be strong, and that kind of made them rule out John Jay and his friends since they were smaller. Robert, on the other hand, was a bodybuilder, which means he had the strength to inflict the wounds that were found on Kelly's body. When detectives went to question the 2 friends that had been there that day, they confirmed John Jay's story. They had played some games and then they went to go play basketball. But they also told the detectives that John Jay could have been the one to call Kelly because for the past few years he had had a crush on her. But due to the timeline of when people saw Kelly go into the Golub house and the boys playing basketball, the only person that was home at the time would have been Robert. They questioned him again, and he said that the morning he went to the convenience store to get a bodybuilding magazine. Then he returned home. After his brother and his friends got home from school, they all played video games and just hung out for a while before he decided to go up to his room, have a few beers, and smoke weed. He said he never saw or spoke to Kelly that day. He also told them that she was pretty close to his brother, John Jay, because she would call at least twice a day to talk to him. When detectives showed a picture of the bayonet to Robert, he said he had never seen it before, and as far as he knew, nobody in the house even owned one. He did also consent to a polygraph test, but the examiner canceled it halfway through when he realized that Robert kept holding his breath in order to mess with the results. So detectives who were back at the crime scene were able to find 2 briefcases that they found Kelly's clothing in. There was blood on the inside and the outside, so they collected samples. The autopsy showed no sign of sexual assault. The cause of death was officially ruled as blunt force trauma to the skull. The ME said that there were over 200 blows to Kelly's head. The crime scene looked to be done in a frenzy, and it had to be done by somebody who was strong. Robert's parents soon hired a lawyer for both boys, who told them to stop answering the questions. Days have now passed with no updates, and Kelly's parents were getting frustrated because to them it was obvious what had happened and who had done it. But detectives were still waiting for the results of the blood that was on the briefcase. Being in the 80s, it took them a while to get the results back. But once they did, they were able to match Robert's blood to the blood found on the briefcases. However, it also came into question of how the blood got there, because he also lived there. He could have cut himself at any point in time, could have touched those briefcases a different day. It didn't necessarily mean that the blood had gotten there that same day. After gathering all of the evidence, they were finally able to arrest Robert on March 24th. The trial began on February 15th of 1990. Prosecutors' opening statements provided the jury with the DNA results. They described the brutality that Kelly went through. And due to where the bite marks were located on her body, the prosecutor ended his argument saying that this was, in fact, a sexual assault. The defense's opening arguments told the jury that the forensic evidence was too confusing and that they wouldn't understand it, so they shouldn't trust it. Basically saying the jury was too dumb to be able to comprehend how the DNA worked. He then tried to say that the 3 14-year-old boys were the ones that had killed Kelly. All of this was shot down by the prosecutors, who could prove and explain that the boys were playing basketball at the time that Kelly was seen at the house, leaving only Robert home during this time. Prosecutors also brought an expert witness to explain how mapping of DNA worked, so the jury did understand how it was possible for them to link the blood at the scene to Robert. In their closing arguments on April 2nd, the jury deliberated for a day before coming back with a verdict of guilty. Robert had no reaction to this, but Kelly's family was just erupted in joy. They finally got the justice that they needed. Robert's sentencing hearing was on June 1st, and the judge gave him an opportunity to speak before telling him his sentence. Robert spoke, and he said that the case was all a conspiracy against him and that the jury was against him, the crime scene analysis were against him. It was all a setup. Okay, the judge, obviously not believing on any of this, gave him his sentence, which was a maximum of life and a minimum of 25 years for second-degree murder. Robert tried to appeal his case in 1993, but it was denied. He was up for parole in 2013, where Robert confessed. He confessed to everything. He said that he had killed Kelly in a rage due to being on steroids. He said that he had never meant to kill her, and he was remorseful for what happened. Nobody believed his remorse. Nobody was buying it, so his parole was denied. Now, Kelly's parents hold a celebration every year on her birthday, which is March 5th. The whole town comes together and they just celebrate Kelly's life because she was taken 2 days before her 14th birthday. Thank you for listening to today's episode. Wherever you're listening, please remember to like and follow the podcast. Again, if you're interested in watching the video version, I will have the link in the description box. I hope everyone has a great day and you stay safe, and I will be talking to you next week.